Solution is pleased to present this online webinar entitled, Why Guess When You Can Test? Our speaker for the presentation today is Jenny Lassie. My name is Jeff Baker, and I will be your moderator for today's seminar. Today's presentation will last approximately 60 minutes and include a specific question and answer period at the end of the session. You may enter a question by typing it into the web conference system in the lower right-hand side of your screen, and then clicking the call-out button or hitting enter on your keypad. These instructions will be repeated later in the program. If you have any technical questions during the event, please email support@HighRoadSolution.com. Today's webinar is being recorded, and all participant lines will be muted during the live program. Jenny Lassie has been affiliated with HighRoad Solution for 8 years, first as a client and then as an employee. With experience handling deployments and deliverability for a wide range of clients with optimized recipient engagement top of mind, Jenny routinely troubleshoots deliverability issues from ISP-level filtering to email client-level filtering, email forensics as she refers to it. She also consults with clients on authentication, content strategy, email preference center management, and other deliverability optimization tactics. And with that, I would now like to turn the webinar over to Jenny.
Why, thank you, Jeff. Welcome, everyone. Today we're going to go over A/B testing. So using A/B testing, what is A/B testing, what is multivariate testing, and the 5 C's and how they apply to testing, and how to start simple, and then eventually testing more complex issues, and then some best practices and resources and takeaways. So what is A/B testing? I'm sure all of you are familiar with the concept. It's really a concept more than a feature functionality of your email platform, but A/B testing is a term commonly used in web development, online marketing, and other forms of advertising to describe simple randomized experiments with 2 variants. So you have an A and you have a B, a control, and then the other treatment that has the controlled experiment or variable in there. The formal or scientific name used for this process is hypothesis testing, but A/B testing for all practical purposes is what we're going to refer to it today as. So what is multivariate testing? Okay, multivariate testing is an internet marketing or really a term that where you test more than one component of a website in a live environment. So it's really thought of in simple terms as numerous A/B tests performed on one page at the same time, and A/B tests are usually performed to determine the better of 2 content variations, whereas multivariate testing can theoretically test the effectiveness of limitless combinations. Just a note that be very cautious of sending to too many variables, as you're not really able to understand what the root reason is of any kind of lift and response, simply because there's just too many variables. So for the purpose of this webinar, we will focus on A/B testing, because for email marketing, testing more than one variable will not show you what one element is responsible for the lift and response. Okay. So email strategy. So we can see that a majority of our customers sending on the platforms that we support are not taking advantage of the built-in A/B split testing features. And that can be for really any number of reasons, but from the clients I surveyed, the reason they were not testing was because of really time limitations to do anything more complex than just sending an email newsletter. So that is taxing their resources enough, and they simply just don't have the time to do anything more than that. So thinking of 2 subject lines or having any more complex than having design create 2 different creatives to test one element, or having the copywriter tweak the tone of the story, that all takes extra time. So this is when it's time to take the bull by the horns. Really work smarter, not harder, and try to automate some of the newsletters that are more time-consuming, either by taking advantage of RSS feeds to pull in content to newsletters, or creating kind of the newsletter of the future that we have done for several of our customers now, completely automating newsletters using a taxonomy. But you can also analyze the strategic or perceived value of the newsletters your organization deploys to see if you can maybe combine some of them, or even dare I say it, drop one altogether if members and recipients are opting down from that particular newsletter. You really want to do that on a yearly basis just to see if there might be time saving or ways that you can time save for your internal resources. That simply, it takes time to put together those newsletters. If they're not doing that, then they have time that you can reallocate to other items such as additional strategy. So spending a little time now will help you save more time later for more strategy. Okay, so the 5 C's of email marketing strategy, as I like to call them, and the first step is configuration, or really cleaning the house. So the 5 C's are an ideal life cycle of an email marketer. It's what they eat, sleep, and breathe. I've talked about them before on past HighRoad webinars, but they apply to strategy in general and also to A/B testing. Ideally, I would like everyone attending this webinar today, or anyone listening to the recording who is not currently doing any kind of A/B testing, to start planning just one a month. Just start test one item a month and learn from that. Okay, maybe starting with the main monthly newsletter that your organization sends out, then you can eventually ramp up to 1 per week if that makes sense for your organization, if you're even sending that many. But starting out simple is the best way to go about. Anyway, so let's move on to the 5 C's of email marketing strategy here and talk about configuration and cleaning house. Sorry, I have to point it out because that's kind of my that's my thing here at HighRoad, addressing any deliverability issues. So before you start testing, you have to make sure that you're doing everything you can to ensure that you have the best inbox percentage. Unfortunately for email marketers, you don't always have insight, and if emails are filtered and routed to inboxes, junk folders, or spam folders. So the configuration piece is huge, meaning you need to lay the foundation for the house before you can build the house. There's no ifs, and, ors, or buts about it. Okay. All right. So you may be sending email on a shared IP or a dedicated IP. Think of an IP address like your reputation or sender score, like your credit score. If you ding your credit score, it's not always easy or fast to recover, so it does take some time. A dedicated IP is like your own credit card, and that you don't share. Your sending activity is your sending activity alone, and your organization is solely responsible for a great, okay, or bad credit score. So we monitor all dedicated IPs for our customers on our platforms and bring anything to their attention, especially when our tools show a downward trend. Okay. And a shared IP address means you're sharing your credit score with other similar organizations. So the benefits are, if you don't send regular email traffic or you're starting with a new platform, you can send traffic almost like normal without a formal IP warming plan. The downside is that other organizations on the shared IP may have complaints that affect your ability to reach your recipients' inboxes. So that's just something to be aware of. For our member-driven organization and agencies who use HighRoad shared IP, we do bring complaints to their attention and consult with them to minimize complaint activity, so activity doesn't adversely affect another organization on the shared IP. But there is limited amount of information we can gather on a shared IP, complaints just being the big key indicator there. So. Okay, and then the authentication piece. So this is often the main culprit. This is the first thing that I will address with any customers that we're, troubleshooting any deliverability. So if you do not use DKIM, Sender ID, SPF, and DMARC authentication, DMARC being, it's something that you completely implement on your own without our assistance, but authenticating your email with your platform has, basically you're giving your email platform the permission and authority to send emails using your domain, okay? Then the filters could be putting emails into quarantine if you don't have this, okay? Authentication is no longer a nice to have, it's a must have. Unfortunately, if you're seeing a lot of bounce activity and you don't use authentication, it's kind of futile. This might sound harsh, but it's futile to address deliverability issues because many times the root issue is lack of authentication. It's definitely a must have. Okay. even if you do use authentication, I still do recommend monitoring your bounce logs 24 to 48 hours post-deployment. So I'll get off my soapbox now, but I just had to put in my 2 cents there because that's what I do. All right, so why not just blast? Why not just start testing right now? Basically because invalids, excessive email bounces, emails filtered to junk and spam folders is a waste of money. I am frugal by nature, fiscally conservative, as many would say, and I don't like to waste money. I don't gamble. If I have put a $5 limit on myself for losing money, even in Vegas, so I'm just not a risk taker when it comes to that sort of thing. I don't like to see customers wasting money on emails either. Okay. There's also a lot of filters you have to go through, you know, with any sense, not just your A/B split testing, but with any emails that you're deploying through your platform. It's going through ISP level filters, email server filters, all the way to email client junk folder filters. So it's going through this entire funnel before your email can reach an inbox. So you're going through a lot of steps to try and get to an inbox. So, you know, that's why I say it's just really important to you know, to focus on the authentication, doing everything that you possibly can to reach an inbox. And once you have those items in place, then you're able to maybe do some of the more diagnostic tests that are inside your account. For instance, in the HighRoad Solution campaign email platform, there is a SureSend deliverability report, or domain delivery report, rather. And if you enable it, you're able to see a visual representation of where your emails are going to the seed list that this is being sent to, okay? So it's showing you how many are going percentage missing, percentage going in the bulk box, and percentage going into the inbox. So it's a helpful diagnostic tool. You know, you certainly can do one of these reports before and after authentication, just so you can prove to yourself that it does make a difference, because it certainly does. And then when you are reaching an inbox, then you can see 100% inbox, or if you have any issues with particular ISPs, then we can address some issues. Authentication is treated differently by the different free email platforms out there. So for instance, Gmail relies heavily on DKIM. Yahoo might rely more on Sender ID and SPF. So if you have all of them, you're doing what you can. Do whatever is in your control to reach an inbox. Obviously, there's going to be elements that are out of your control, but do everything that's in your control. So data hygiene, manage invalid bounces, DKIM, Sender ID authentication, as well as DMARC. Address any issues with filtering that you can, meaning if you go through bounce logs and you see that little ISPs might be filtering and blocking emails, then you can reach out to them on an individual level to either abuse at or postmaster at, whatever the domain is, and ask that they whitelist your IP address and your domain for future sends. So sometimes you'll get a response, sometimes you won't get a response, but just that act alone does resolve many of the issues. So, okay. All right. So the 5 C's, the second, content. After you deal with configuration, then comes content. So you can test common, subject lines. You can test differences in subject lines. You can test the tone of the content. Tone of the subject line. Is it playful? Is it serious? If you're sending an email to a list or segment that contains subscribers, really that kind of cross all generational divides or demographics. Testing content tone will show you if the audience is engaging with the email more or less. So you could also then learn from that maybe some of the recipients that are in the older generation respond more to serious. The younger generation might respond more to kind of tongue-in-cheek type of humor in your content. So you really need to start testing content. I highly recommend it. You can test lead story. Lead story, if it's resonating with everyone, the size of the lead story may be tested. And table of contents. So now a lot of responsive email templates now have gone down to a single column versus a 2-column design, and therefore sometimes the table of contents has gone away, but you might test the differences between that. You might test if a table of contents with jumps down to the content lower in the newsletter, if that performs better than maybe a single column where somebody has to use a vertical scroll to go down to content. You definitely need to test table of contents for your longer newsletters. People don't like to necessarily read through the entire thing. They're skimmers by nature, so you can test more text versus read more links, right? Or a combination, table of contents with more text with read more links. So there's a lot of options you can do to test content. Okay. Now the third step is the create. So in creating a message, there's a few things you could test, or just ideas for you to test, is you can really see, does a standard template respond better than a responsive template? So is it mobile friendly? If a lot of your audience is opening up your emails on a mobile device and you need to prove that, there's no better way to prove it than to test it and let the data and the metrics from the reporting speak volumes for what your recipients want. You can also test call to action button colors and placement. That's a very common one. Does a text link work more than a call to action button that people's eye goes to right from a newsletter? Or maybe the color. Do people respond more to red call to action buttons or to blue, or something that matches more of your branding and color palette? So these are all things you should be thinking about testing. Also layout. Does a single column layout work more than maybe a double column that might stack? Okay, and then how is that stacking done if it's a responsive email? And also images. People respond to images. Picture's worth 1,000 words. That is definitely true in today as it ever was in the past. So using effective images is very much will enhance the engagement that your recipients have with your emails. Okay. So can you trust your gut? This is a great question. One thing I giggle about all the time is how wrong I am in predicting the winners of an A/B split. Like seriously wrong. Like there's something really wrong with me that I can't ever figure it out. But seriously, I trust my gut for everything except A/B splits now. So I can accurately guess the obvious, a call to action button versus a text link. But when it comes to subtle differences, what I think will perform better is most often not the case. And therefore, any ego that I may have had in the past about, my ability to predict is completely gone. I have zero ego. I'm always wrong. So, and everyone's the boss of me. But I've learned that I cannot trust my gut, and I need to rely solely on data metrics to make future business decisions when it comes to email marketing and testing, okay? Or even, web landing pages and that sort of thing. I need to test and I need to see the data, because what I think is true isn't always the case. So think of it like this. Opinions are like noses. We all have one. So test and let the data speak volumes about what works with your audience. So don't rely on the opinion of the CEO or one person acting as an expert or anything else for that matter. Test with your audience, as their unique needs cannot be replicated by any other testing from any other organization. Like, you can make some general assumptions, but you need to test against your own audience. So that said, let's test your gut. Okay. So, can being more verbose get a higher response rate? We're just going to go through a little exercise, a case study workshop, if you will, so we can understand a little bit more about what your gut reaction is and compare what those results are with the actual winning results. So, can being verbose get a higher response rate? So here is our version A. Okay, this is for deliverysuccess.com, and they're selling an online template maker. right? So, they have a graphic there with a free trial button, so you can, text on or click on a text link. You can, click on that button. And now here is version B. It has all of the elements that version A does, except for it does have some testimonials underneath it. So it's additional content. It's more verbose, but those testimonials are there, and they do stand out. They're in italics. And then you can also, look at their link at the bottom, and we love to help you succeed, right? So I'm going to go back to version A. So see version A, and then check out version B, and just kind of think to yourself, what would you do? What would you pick if you were going to be looking at both of these versions? Which one would you rather see? Okay, so again, version A and version B. All right. What do you think? Version B actually won an astounding 247% more clicks. So just going back, version B with the additional testimonials and the more content actually performed much better. And that goes against, some rules of thumb say that, less is more. That's not necessarily true in all cases. So again, testing against your own audience is going to be the best litmus test for what you should be doing in the future. Now, that's not saying that applies to everything. Those were testimonials and adding additional content. People respond to testimonials. People respond to like ratings, such as Amazon, and does something have 5 stars, or do they only have 3 stars if you're comparing 2 products side by side? Well, a lot of people will definitely take that rating system into consideration when they're making a purchase. Okay. So the next, does a larger lead story get people to click? Okay, so think about your own email newsletters and how those templates are structured. And does everything kind of given the same weight, albeit the order might determine the ranking or priority for that content? So we have version A. And so version A has, a larger lead story. The photo is bigger. The view now is larger. This is definitely given more prominence, whereas all of the articles underneath it are, although they have a hierarchy as far as the order that they appear, but they all are given the same type of prominence and real estate on the page. And then you have version B. So version B has everything with the same amount or visual space, real estate on that email, and the lead story is the same size, although it's at the top, but it is the same size as all of the other stories. So take another look at version A, and version A has the larger lead story, and then version B. And what do you think? If you were to receive that newsletter, would you pick the larger lead story and click on it, or B? Version B, the one without the bigger feature content, increased clicks by 75% and online registrations by a stunning 400%. Now this, I would have been completely incorrect. I would have chosen version A simply because I would say, wow, I'd click through to that story because it's big and it's prominent. It's not always the case. You're always going to have to test against your audience to see what resonates with them. So for this, for Bright Talk, their audience, it performed better when everything was given the same prominence. Okay. All right, so does more or less white space increase engagement? Okay, think about how you like white space. It's airy. It's not extremely verbose. Your eye seems to wander a little bit and focus on things. When heat map studies will show you there's more white space, your eye goes directly to the kind of the upper left, and there's all sorts of assumptions you could make. Now this version A from Yahoo Travel, super busy email template, right? There's navigation at the top. There are so many possible places to click through to this. I don't really know where your eye would go first. So we're testing out version A and version B. B has more white space, as you can see. It's a little less confusing. Your eye might know where to go. There's some buttons here for flight and hotel and for book now. Let's go back to version A. Take a look at that. And B, the more white space. Like, there's a lot going on here. I don't know where my eye would go to first. When I go to version B, my eye first goes to this cool picture because, you know, you're at work, I'm looking out the window right now. It's a cloudy, rainy day in Minneapolis, Minnesota, and that looks pretty nice to me right about now. But I think, you know, kind of the general overall theme, Yahoo Travel would like somebody to go ahead and try to click through to the flight and book now. That certainly would entice me. So what would you think? Version A, version B? All right. So version A increased click-throughs by 5.6%, and heat maps showed that there was a higher engagement as a whole across the entire email. Okay? Now take a look at that. That's a really busy email, right? And you've heard it time and time again that less is more. You know, if it's confusing, maybe design is trying to convince you to go one way versus the other because they don't want to have as many design elements in the newsletter. But yet, you know, your recipients might be telling you a different story. So that's the story you need to stick with. What do your recipients want? That's really the end goal of any A/B test, is to learn from those experiences, to learn from what your recipients are telling you they want. Okay. All right. So the next in line for the case study workshop is subject line, straight shooter or a bit playful. Okay, now obviously we've kind of touched on this a little bit, in that it really sometimes can depend on your audience, and if there's, you know, multi generations that make up your recipient list, then this could totally vary. You know, straight shooter or a bit playful. Not everybody has the same type of sense of humor, so using humor can be backfire, possibly. But here is version A. Okay, this is a multilingual email. So we have the new product, big tablet or lightweight supercomputer, right? Little bit more playful. Okay, I'm not even going to try and pronounce the French. I'm very sorry for my French-Canadian people on the webinar. Est-ce que vous comprenez l'anglais? That's all the French I know, and it got me around where I needed to be in Quebec, but that's about it. Version B, introducing the new X product, all-in-one product. Really straightforward, straight shooter. Okay. Again, with version A. So I'm Gen X. I like humor. A lightweight supercomputer. I'm like, wow, that's a really strong statement. I want to check that out. Versus, you know, if I'm kind of in a position where I'm busy, I don't have time to go through my inbox. I'm thinking about my own, you know, things that I have to do, this, that, and the other, and sometimes a subject line that just gets to the point speaks volumes to me. So this can also depend on the time of day that you're sending to your recipient. So that's another idea that you could use. Does a more playful subject line work better on a Friday morning at 10 o'clock when everyone's kind of like, yeah, it's Friday, TGIF, or on a Tuesday at 2 o'clock when everybody is in the thick of it, trying to put together their all of their deliverables for the week, right? Okay, so version A, the playful, and version B, straight shooter. What do you think? Version A or version B? All right, this is a trick question because version B, actually this is the version B, the playful version, increased opens for French-speaking Canadians. Okay. However, version A, the plain spoken version, increased opens for English-speaking Canadians. So this was an A/B split test that really kind of spans either the French or English-speaking languages, and what is preferred. So the playful version increased opens for French-speaking Canadians, and the plain-spoken version increased opens for English-speaking Canadians. There we go. Say that 5 times fast. Okay, so time. Timing, in our platforms, there are built-in A/B split testing features that you can leverage, but A/B split testing has always been available. It's just really more of a concept. You're sending 2 different versions, and you're analyzing the results, and then you can learn from that and send, either a winning version or a champion to the remainder of your list. So what local time? You could do 50-50 splits, or you can even use 2 sending time features in the A/B split testing functionality in your account. So what local time works better for B2B email offers? So most of our association and nonprofit customers, and they're doing B2B email basically. So you're not doing commercial or retail, and so therefore testing out the times that your emails are sent would give you a lot of insight into the times that you should send. Also the days that you might want to send. So are you going to send a 9 a.m. on Tuesday and a 9 a.m. on Wednesday, and see if that might make sense. See what gets the best lift rate. Or send it 2 separate, 2 different times on the same day, or the same time on 2 different days. You really kind of have to find out when your recipients want to receive these emails versus your marketing calendar and determining when they should be deployed, right? Learn from when people are opening and engaging with your emails. So this one, which local time works better for B2B email offers, 9 a.m. or 1 p.m. Okay, we have version A. Very simple, straightforward text version or text-looking version of the email. So not only are you won't necessarily be sending just a straight text version. It might be just a text-looking version that you set up as your HTML message. Version B, identical. The only difference between these 2 emails is that one of them is sent at 9 a.m. and one of them is sent at 1 p.m. Now I should also interject that these are using the time zone sensitive deployment. So meaning that they're not just sending at 9 a.m. Eastern and letting it fall wherever for the rest of the U.S. or the rest of the time zones in Northern America. So, oops, there we go. What do you think? So it's this exact same email, very text-based, no graphics. One is sent at 9 a.m., one is sent at 1 p.m. In the recipient's local time zone. So they're getting it at 9 a.m. or 1 p.m. their time. Okay. So version A, the email sent at 9 a.m. local time at 4 U.S. time zones increased lift in all time zones. So here's the specifics. And I think this is really interesting because Eastern, so 9 a.m. Eastern, we see a 12.5% lift in opens. Okay. For Central time zone, we see 100% lift in opens for sending at 9 a.m. Now Mountain time, 35% lift in opens. And Pacific time, 4,090% lift in opens by sending at 9 a.m. local time. So this not only tells us that wow, that is like a huge metric, and I would even as a data analyst would question how accurate could that possibly be if that's even possible to lift at that amount. So because I'm a not necessarily a cynic, but definitely a critic, and I want to understand, what contributed to that. So that is something to note, that you'd want to test. Now, if you're not taking advantage of any of the time zone features, at least in your campaign email account, time zone features really are dependent on you having the time zone value or time zone ID for each subscriber in your database that you may not have right now, right? In your AMS or your CRM solution, you may only have a combination of address and, city, state, and zip or country. And you can make some determinations for what time zone they may be in. Now, I know Google has some tools that you could upload to Google Apps, upload like address information, and it will plot out what time zone that they're in. So there are some tools available so that you can at least have that information, and then you can, ask your HighRoad support team how to get that information into your account and take advantage of that feature. But that is definitely something you can take advantage of right out of the gate. The feature's free. We can enable it on your account if it's not enabled already, but the data does need to be there. You can't simply hit time zone sensitive and then our system just automatically knows what time zone something is in, unless we tell the system what time zone those subscribers are in. So that's okay. Now I'll get off my soapbox, but yeah, definitely send A/B split testing for 2 different times. Very easy to do. 50-50 split, 2 time zones. You could also enable the A/B split testing with the champion, which I highly recommend, because you can send 10% of your list, version A, 10% version B. The remaining 80%, you can determine either manually, or you can have the system decide what the winning metric is. If you want to go with, highest open rate or highest click-to-open rate or, highest click-through rate, whatever the case might be, you can have the system determine that for you and deploy it. So these things, once they're set up, you can leave them alone and just learn from them. I will say, I know from personal experience that trying to cancel or edit an A/B split test after you create it, can create some problems that, you take it out of A/B split testing mode and they become a regular draft, and then you have to then split up your segments or lists into different groups yourself manually and send it out. So just kind of have an idea in your head and have all of your content mapped out for how you want the A/B split test to go before you actually log into any tool and set it up, okay? Because canceling it, is not always easy. It does require us to go to the product dev team to cancel that and take it out of the jobs processing engine. So, okay. And then the final stage, and that concludes our case study workshop. I think you get the gist. We looked at some subject lines. We looked at some lead story. We looked at plain text. We looked at some times. So you can kind of get a sense of what your email marketing and email newsletters are now, to maybe see, maybe there's things that you're curious about that you haven't ever wanted to test. But just get a little group together and just, come up with a kind of an ideation session over the lunch table or something at your office and say, hey, what do you think would be cool? What should we test? Pick one thing a month. If you're just starting from scratch, don't make it complicated. The more complicated you try to make things, the less likely that not only are your internal resources going to enjoy themselves while they do it, but it's the likelihood that they'll continue to do it decreases. So you want to make sure, just keep it simple. Keep it simple and learn from it. Once you set up the A/B split test, you can pretty much set it and forget it. But you obviously need to look into the results and what version was actually chosen as a champion if you're doing an A/B split test with champion. So analyze your delivery metrics, so the bounces, opens, and clicks. And so that's another thing too, is your distribution list if you're sending to one particular segment. And the system is going to randomly divide those up percentage-wise. If you're doing a 50-50 split, it does randomize completely the distribution list. But I will say this, when you import into the system, okay, all of the contacts that are imported into the system are assigned a contact ID. Okay, so they go into the system in the order that they're received in your data file. So if you're importing a big list of, say, all Yahoo addresses, and the first 20,000 records are Yahoo addresses, and then the second 20,000 records are Hotmail addresses or something, I'm just throwing this out there, that when the system does a 50-50 split, it's taking it in the order of contact ID. So although the lists are truly randomized, you want to be cognizant of that, because if you're seeing, okay, well maybe you're having a Yahoo delivery issue. So version A got sent, who mainly went to Yahoo subscribers, you're seeing a higher bounce rate because Yahoo saw that you didn't have sender ID enabled, or maybe too many Yahoo subscribers complained and they have a different inbox algorithm or bounce algorithm in place. So you want to kind of keep those things in mind. So use bounce logs to address deliverability issues 24 to 48 hours post-deployment, not a month later. Don't analyze and learn from these a month later, because at that point, you can gain a little bit of knowledge. I mean, a month later is better than nothing. Just put that out there. But the bounce logs, often, if 24 to 48 hours post-deployment, if you try to address any delivery issues after that time frame, you're really limited. Like a lot of ISPs, when I've gone to them to address any whitelisting issues or blocks, they won't even talk to you if that original email was sent more than 48 hours ago. Okay, so just nominate somebody, 1, 2, 3, not it, to go into your bounce logs and just take a look at your delivery metrics to address any delivery issues that you might see in your bounce logs. Okay, isolate subscribers who are not engaged with your emails. This is a big one. This goes a long way to address delivery issues, simply because if you are sending your emails to people that are not opening or clicking through, basically they might just be getting routed to spam, depending on if you have authentication. But you want to only send A/B split tests to your most engaged recipients, because they're the ones clicking through and they're the ones opening your emails, and they're the ones that are going to give you the correct data on if your version A or version B is really performing better, right? If you're sending to a bunch of people that just don't even look at your emails, those open and click-through metrics they're going to be skewed, okay? I never recommend sending it to any email subscriber that has not opened or clicked through to one of your emails in the past 180 days, okay? The holidays, that changes. The holidays, you need to be more restrictive and exclude a dynamic segment that takes out anybody that has not opened or clicked through to your email in the past 90 days, okay? Now, that does reduce the email volume you're sending, but you're going to see that it does make a huge difference in your open and click-through rates. Your engagement scores will go up. You're going to show somebody, well, this newsletter received a 30% open rate, but when we got more segmented and we excluded anyone that was not engaging in the emails, our open rates went up to 35 or 40%. So you want to definitely take that into consideration. And just please, for all of your future sends as well, just be more strategic about excluding anyone that's not opening and clicking through for 180 days. If you have any questions about how to set up a dynamic segment like that, please do give our support team a call. That's what we're here for, and we'd be happy to help you. You can create an A/B test win-back campaign for non-engaged subscribers to basically with an incentive to respond. Now, you wouldn't be able to use any of these strategy blueprints built in, because you can only create one win-back campaign per strategy blueprint. But you can, that's just taking advantage of the feature functionality that's already in the system. You can send a win-back campaign and create a series of recurring emails to, test out, trying to reach out to the non-engaged subscribers. So just an idea. You can also analyze how many subscribers are opting down or unsubscribing from particular messages. So maybe the perceived value of the content is low. So You can definitely do this with your version A and version B too. Make your unsubscribe mechanism at the top versus the bottom of your email template, and see what the behaviors are of your recipients. Now, I never want to say let's try to do an A/B split test for seeing which gets the highest opt-out rate, right? Because that's kind of like counterintuitive. You don't want people to opt out. You want them to be more engaged. But if you don't understand like the behaviors of your recipients, you as they're unsubscribed, or do they want to opt down? Do they want us to go to their preference center? Having that link really low in the email, or in the footer versus in a pre-header. Test out and see what actually reduces the amount of opt-outs or opt-downs. Okay, and then continue. So the final step in the 5 C's is continue. So use what you have learned and apply it to future deployments, right? Now you can always tweak it and maybe then do an amended A/B split test that tweaks one little variable about that winning version, right? And then learn from that. And as your email deployments evolve, you'll be using all of these proven metrics that your recipients are actually telling you gets the best engagement, right? And so you can really understand them more than any white paper or case study from another organization would ever tell you. Testing against your own audience is the proven way that you can learn from them. So kind of some of the takeaways from this are be more strategic with your testing with the 5 C's, okay? Just taking the time to send at least one A/B split test per month. So simple, right? But you have to start somewhere. So start with one a month if you're not doing anything now, and see where that takes you. You might decide, wow, this is really fun, and we're learning a lot from it, and we're increasing our overall engagement with our members and non-members and prospects, and this performs better with prospects, and this performs better with our engaged members. You're not going to understand these things unless you start testing. So definitely want to see more customers using the built-in A/B split testing features. And also, if you have a really awesome response and it's just really surprising, please reach out to me, because I would love to do a case study on you if you would allow me to. But I would love to just help other organizations understand what they could be trying. Okay, so testing from using your own audience, it's the only way to see what increases engagement. And send to known engaged members when testing your results, or your results may vary based on inbox placement. So, and to that, I will open up the floor to any questions that you all might have.
All right, thank you, Jenny. It is now definitely time for the Q&A part of our training. Again, to ask a question, you can type it into the Q&A pod on the right-hand side of the screen, and then clicking the call-out button or hitting enter on your keypad. First question, would you suggest using personalization when doing A/B testing?
Absolutely. I mean, that's one of the most, I don't want to say most basic, but the kind of the easiest or more obvious solution is does like a subject line that has a personalized subject line increase your overall engagement. The subject line is the first thing people see. This is the friendly from name and the subject line. And sometimes the subject line can be, if you're looking on a mobile device, it can be less characters than if you're looking on a desktop. So you definitely want to test, personalization like first name, gets the best recipient engagement from your recipients. Some people might not care. Obviously, I will just kindly suggest that you make sure you have first name values for all of the people receiving the email. If you have people that are signing up for emails from like a subscription form where they're just entering their email address, you may not even have first name data for them. So just make sure that your entire recipient list has a first name value. just to make sure that's not blank, comma, and then the subject line, because then that looks like a mistake and gets deleted immediately. So it's a great question.
All right. Our next question, do you recommend a limit to the numbers sent for testing?
A limit to the number sent for testing? No. And I mean, and if I'm understanding the question correctly, so if the distribution list that you're sending an A/B split test to, like say 90,000, and I would recommend if you want to do a 50-50 split, hey, you're still learning something from it. I would suggest that maybe you could do a 20-20-60. Like a 20% version A, 20% version B, and 60% the winning version. That's going to allow you to see what resonates with your audience the most and deliver the remaining 60%, the winning version. So not only are you learning something from that, but you're also going to get the highest engagement with the winning version, with the majority of your list. So, but like I said, if you're just doing like a small distribution list, like 5,000, and you want to test out like 2,500 sent this, 2,500 sent that, you're going to learn something from that. If you have a larger list, anywhere north of 15,000, 20,000. I would highly suggest using the A/B split test with Champion.
All right, great. Next question is, you had mentioned setting up DKIM and SPF. If I don't currently have a dedicated IP address, should I still set these up?
Absolutely. You do not need a dedicated IP address to take advantage of authentication. So that was, that's really, to sound like a Valley girl, that's so 5 years ago. No, before it was only available to people on a dedicated IP. That is no longer the case. So if I stress anything, it's that authentication is a must-have, and I would do that before diving into any other deliverability consulting or analyzing any kind of bounce logs, because really that's mainly going to be at the root of many of your deliverability issues, is the authentication piece. Any phishing filters on the email servers of the recipient, if they don't see that DKIM and sender ID is passing for your domain, they will route it. Now, we're an email service provider. We provide platforms. Now, all of the authentication is if you don't have it in place for your specific domain, the authentication is still passing, although it's coming from not necessarily HighRoad solution, but either Blue Hornet or Campaign Monitor. Okay, so that, or Email Connect. And so if you have your specific domain, and probably the best visual indicator if you have DKIM or sender ID enabled is to send a test to like a test Gmail account, right? So you're sending a standard test message or a live message to a segment that just has your Gmail account in it. And if you see at the top a little via, so at bluehornet.com or emailconnect.com, that means that there's still authentication, but it's the platform authentication, right? If it still says the via anything, then you need to just ping us. It's a super easy process to get DKIM and sender ID enabled. We'll send you instructions. You tell us what domains you use as your sender email, not your reply to email, but your sender email, and we will send you some keys. It's a 5-minute step for someone at IT to add those text records to your DNS. It does not affect anything else or any other systems that you might use for email, any listserv or maybe any other internal Exchange servers. It's not going to affect any of that. This is simply just giving our platform permission by your domain to send on its behalf. So you do not need a dedicated IP.
All right, excellent. So it's definitely something that everybody should follow up on. Looks like our last question here, can you do an A/B split with social sharing and have social sharing determine the champion based on how many times the message was shared?
Ooh, great question. So obviously, like I said, A/B split testing is a concept. Now there's some internal feature functionality for A/B split testing that you can take advantage of to make things very easy. Now that feature functionality does not, like the champion version, would not be be able to automatically be sent, but if you wanted to analyze the metrics of each version A and version B and then send manually the champion to the remaining list, then that would be the way to go. And then you can actually use the new social sharing features, and I highly recommend it too, especially if you have any .edu addresses in your list or your segment that you're sending this to, simply because .edu addresses are known for filtering out any emails coming in from any types of platforms that are using social, because they might be blocking social media and social media platforms from their recipients. So that is one thing. It's notoriously hard. If you try to get a newsletter through that's using a lot of social media sharing features and social media icons and links to Facebook and links, a lot of times those get filtered. So definitely try and see if one performs better than the other. If one newsletter gets a higher engagement and has a higher delivery rate, and then the version B that has the social icons in it has a lower delivery rate, I mean, that's going to tell you a lot about what your recipients can receive. So yeah, that's a great suggestion. There's limitless possibilities with A/B testing. If you're curious about, well, does social really work in our emails, test it. You can read all the case studies in the world that, social is the new black, and, go test it with your audience. See where they're going. So yeah, great question.
That actually was the last question there. So I want to thank everyone for your participation in today's webinar, Why Guess When You Can Test. Special thank you to our speaker, Jenny Lassie. If you have any additional questions or comments, please email us at support@highroadsolution.com. Today's session was recorded, and you'll receive an email in the next few days with the webinar recording. Today's webinar is copyrighted by HighRoad Solution with all rights reserved. This concludes today's program. Thank you, and you may now disconnect.